I am a nervous librarian. Why am I so nervous? Is it because I always have to be quiet? Or that I fear I can't keep quiet? I've got to be good at punctuation. But being a librarian is not how I discovered my first period. I am in a profession of books. My mother encouraged the reading of Nancy Drew and all 14 Wizard of Oz books, but she never read me the most important one. I had to discover that by myself. You see, I grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota, and if Missouri is the show me state, then Minnesota would be the give a standard answer that will not give you a clue to my inner soul and emotions state. That is a lot for a car license plate. On Sunday nights, my mother did not cook. My dad was in charge of dinner that night. We would all be loaded up into the family station wagon, where we were driven to an exotic restaurant and treated to elegant cuisine called spaghetti and meatballs. The owner had a crush on my beautiful mother, but my mother only had eyes for the love of her life, my dad. You know that scene in Lady and the Tramp where they both end up sipping opposite ends of the same noodle? Well, that never happened. But my parents were good and kind to each other, and it was love. Everyone always describes people where I grew up as Minnesota nice. Let me give you a good example of that. My mom has exercised almost every day of her 84 years. Racquetball, biking, floor exercises. Her idea of a dessert is a hollowed out apple baked in the oven with Diet Shasta strawberry pop for flavor. My idea is a homemade brownie. Nevertheless, a few years ago, I won the fitness challenge at a local gym, and I was completely over the moon. Someone asked me how I felt about it, and suddenly a picture of my Minnesota nice mother popped into my brain and reminded me that the correct answer is not too bad. Another example of Minnesota nice is my mother gets pulled over for a speeding ticket, and as the police officer is leaving, my mom enthusiastically thanks him. We lived really far from our grade school, and they didn't have a lunchroom, so my sister Ellen and I had to walk back and forth a half a mile 4 times a day. To make the walk fun, I would read. One day when I was in 5th grade, my teacher took me aside and gave me a big sealed envelope to take home. She said that inside there was a book and a permission note that I had to have my mother sign. Upon a recent forensic investigation, utilizing the discreet and private inner sanctum called Facebook, I discovered I was the only girl in my class to receive a taped and sealed envelope. As soon as I reached the hill out of my teacher's sight, I broke the seal and pulled this mysterious book from its envelope. My mind was racing. Why could I not read it alone? What adventures could this book possibly have? The name of the forbidden book was The Joys of Being a Woman. It contained such carnal knowledge and revolting process, I shall spare you the details. I knew right then and there my mother must be protected at all costs. My beautiful, prim, proper mother, she couldn't know the truth. She couldn't handle the truth. She, a mother of 4, what could she possibly know about pregnancy? How embarrassing. I had never thought about how babies were made and born. I had assumed from the title that the book contained ideas about sewing, removing stains from blouses, and how to wear white gloves and heels while cleaning the house, like on Leave It to Beaver. The movie would be on Monday, and the permission note had to be signed. My 10-year-old mind came up with a great idea how to finesse this. My parents went out every Saturday night. My mother would stand at the mirror and adjust her wiglet, fresh from the beauty shop. It was the era of big do's, and the wiglet perched on top of her actual hair. Choosing my moment perfectly through the haze of Aquanet, I bolted in with a pen, asked my mother to sign, and amazingly, I got away with it. Monday finally came. All of the 5th grade girls are brought into the gym. The windows of this room seemed completely boarded up with brown paper. We watched a film with arrows, cycles, diagrams, pictures, bewildering references to something called a sanitary napkin. I just shook it off, knowing none of that would affect me. Now, all you modern moms are shrugging your shoulders and wondering, why didn't Gayle's mom sit her down and tell her the facts of life? What's the big deal? Remember, I lived in the land of Minnesota Nice during the 1960s, way before Woodstock and Make Love Not War. I'm talking about a time when there were blue laws prohibiting alcohol sold on Sundays, and there were no shows that even hinted at sins of the flesh. You see, even now, I cannot say the word S-E-X. Then something happened, and I couldn't even worry about protecting my mother. My friend got her period. This caused an entirely new set of problems to deal with. She asked her older sister what she should do. She was presented with a box of tampons and told to follow the package directions. Yes, you get it. Most of us here know all too well how that turned out. My friend lived in utter terror that she would sneeze. Months of trial and error, the use of tilted mirrors, and deciphering the diagram that comes with the box. Finally, some sense of ragtag logic was achieved, and our womanhood was launched. A new set of parameters opened up to all my friends: when to wear white pants, when not to. The transportation of these bulky pads, cramps, swimming, how to get out of gym class. My mom bought maxi pads. Does anyone remember printed on the adhesive backing were the words, "Have a happy period"? This is an oxymoron. Like jumbo shrimp. Butthead. And childproof. Here are some of the euphemisms my friends and I used when it was that time of the month. I'm having the painters in. Code red. Surfing the crimson tide. Cousin Flo is in town. And my favorite, my red-headed cousin from down south is visiting. I asked my mother to tell me what she remembers most about her period. "What do you want from me?" she said. "I'm going to be 85. When pressed, she said, "We called it the curse of Eve." Decades later, my mother continues to be my inspiration. I've realized I have done a great job protecting her from everything published in The Joys of Being a Woman, both the book and the movie. Because at 84 years old, she has still never discussed the facts of life with me. I wonder, when should I explain them to her?